is a tool that is used to make yarn. And the spindle and the distaff are the tools that's needed to make yarn. Well, what is yarn? Well, it is what fabric is made out of. And of course, we all know what fabric is. It's what clothing is made out of. So she is seeking the resources that she needs to provide clothing for the community, and she's going to do something else with this merchandise. We'll see later. But so she lays her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. And when the first spinning began to be for many years in the eastern countries, the women would spin with their fingers and holding an actual spindle. Today, or last 100 years or so, you have the spinning wheel that the woman would push with her feet for a larger production. Excuse me. Nowadays, of course, many of us buy our fabric and buy our clothing, and they have more of industrialized and technology to produce these items. But people of God, women of God, I exhort you, I admonish you to begin to learn how to do these things, to learn how to spin yarn, to learn how to hold the spindle and the distaff, to take that power of resources back from industry, from capitalism. Now, and also in agriculture, grow your gardens, okay? Come together as one, believers, and buy land so that we can have resources to provide for the body of the Messiah. Learn how to grow your food. Learn how to grow it organically, without pesticides, without fungicides. Learn how to work willingly, with desire and pleasure with your hands. Okay? So let's continue on and see what else she did and what else we need to do as emerging virtuous women. Excuse me. She stretches out her hand to the poor. Yeah, she reaches forth her hands to the needy. She's not hiding her face from them, but she's looking for them. She's stretching her hand out. And when we look at the word hand, it has a figurative note to be power. So whatever is in the power of her hands to do, she is not just doing things for her immediate children and husband, but again, it is for the poor and needy of God. It's for those who call upon his name, and anyone that is sent unto her and that she see that has this need. So let's go on, and verse 21. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. Now scarlet was, and the color scarlet and purple were hand dyed, where the linen and the wool were hand dyed with these colors, and these colors came from some of the mollusks of the sea and some plants, and everyone didn't wear those colors because it was hard to come by. It was a process to produce colored fabric. So for her to not only clothe her family, but to clothe her family in rich fabric and skillful skillfully designed fabric that is dyed and made was truly a God-given skill, a cunning work that she was able to do. She maketh herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Again, she is learning, not only learning, but she is a master at spinning. And after the spinning, what you have to do with the yarn is weave the yarn together to make fabric. And after she makes the fabric, she has to create the clothing to dress her community. So even her own clothing is a tapestry or a beautifully designed a modest, which is an orderly arrangement of clothing that she's wearing. And it is made out of goodly fabric. Silk come from the silkworm. And they use the outer layer of the worm, whatever, to make the silk. Excuse me, to spin and weave the silk. So the things that she's choosing to make clothing out of, the things that she's choosing to clothe her family and herself in, are things of quality. Again, women of God, sisters in Messiah, we must look at ourselves and see what we need to do to produce quality garments for the community of God. Okay? Her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth among the elders of the land. What does it mean to be known? Well, it can mean that he's famous in the gates, that he's well known in the gates. And the gates is of course, in the city, or really where the elders and men of Israel would come together and deal with judgment, such as in the case of Boaz and Ruth. Boaz needed to deal with Ruth righteously and being his brother's keeper, and so he went to the elders in the gates to deal with his situation. So her husband is known in the gates. Remember that a virtuous woman, in the Proverbs it says that a virtuous woman is a crown to her husband. So when a person wears a crown, you can't help but see him. Okay? All the works in which we may do, and that I pray that we will begin to do, reflects on our husbands and on the whole community. Okay? Our works in righteousness and our works in unrighteousness does the same thing. It says that, the unrighteous woman can be a rottenness in the bones of her husband. We don't want to be a cancer to our nation. We don't want to debilitate it where there's no more. But we want to build it up. Come on, women, let's build our house. Let's build the household of God. In this day and time, in this place, let us not succumb to the wiles of Satan. Let us not be deceived anymore to believing that we have to be our own woman and that we have to do for ourselves. But let us do for our community, the household of faith. Excuse me. She maketh fine linen, and selleth it, and delivereth girdles unto the merchant. Remember, we had flax. Well,